Hello and welcome to Beyond the Game. Today we're going back in time to revisit Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 changed the landscape for survival horror games when it was released back in 2005 for the Nintendo Gamecube. It was a critical success amongst reviewers and in sales figures. After its initial release, it has been ported to nearly all following consoles over the years. I installed Resident Evil 4 for the PlayStation 4 and I wanted to see how the game still holds up after 13 years. Of course, the PlayStation 4 re-release is an updated version of the original, now with HD quality. Pretty strange to think that when I bought this game all those years ago, standard definition was just the best thing. Now with the game in all of its glory, you can immediately tell that it was once a pinnacle of graphical power in 2005. However, the game has aged poorly in some aspects, while others still hold up. Let's start with the things that probably, like some of us, haven't aged very well. The facial animations. Good at the time, however, would now be considered very stiff. The HD version does some very strange thing with the eyes though, and it looks kind of freaky and weird at times. The lip syncing is terrible as well, although some of today's games do it even worse. Another evidence of aging graphics are of course its textures. Everything looks a bit blurry. Most noticeable are the buildings, the doors of buildings and the interior. Even in this HD version it all looks very washed out. And now the biggest sign of poor aging are of course its controls. Back on the Gamecube, the controller technically had only one proper movement stick. All the walking and turning was done only with that stick. In today's standards this feels very clunky. Also, not being able to fully rotate the camera is really something that you have to get used to again, and that can take up some time. Besides the walking, it's the shooting and not being able to aim and walk at the same time. A development choice back then that doesn't really do well in today's standards. And now to the good parts that do still hold up decently in the graphical department. For one, the animations of Leon himself. His walking and running animations still look pretty good today, and the same goes for the shooting and reloading animations. All other enemies and major characters also still hold up surprisingly well. The environment, even though very linear and having a shoebox feel to it, still look pretty nice for a 13-year-old game. The sound department is still really well done even by today's standard. Leon Kennedy still sounds good and believable, and so do the other NPCs. The script for the voice acting sounds a bit corny here and there, but it's not worth diving further into. The music is something you can't complain much about either. It can still give you the shivers with its haunting soundtrack and screams of your enemies. The gun sounds haven't changed much over the years, although it sounds a bit more monotone here. The story is of course as cliché as it can get by this point. Saving a damsel in distress won't get too many likes in today's standard. And yes, the story does indeed feel a bit silly. It would have been so much easier if they just gave her an Uzi to shoot with. But like every Resident Evil before, there's plenty of backstories to find in files scattered around the game world. Resident Evil 4 was unfortunately the last game from Shinji Mikami in the series, and it brought a lot of changes for the future of the Resident Evil series. For better and for worse. A new redefined version of his vision can of course be found in his new series called The Evil Within. If you take all of these things in account, is it actually still a good game to play? Well, this is a difficult question. If you have fun memories of playing Resident Evil 4, then you know what to expect, and then yes, this game can still be fun. However, if you've never had a chance to play Resident Evil 4 and you want to give it a try for the first time, this might give you an unpleasant experience, and that's because of its old control layout and obvious other aging aspects. By today's standards, it would still pass as a decent game with clunky controls that unfortunately won't reach its prime glory of when it was released. Still, Resident Evil 4 can often be found on any of the online stores for digital downloads for a rather cheap price. So it would be wise to pick it up and see what the fuss was all about back in 2005. Did you still play the original Gamecube version, or did you even play one of the recent versions? And what are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you like this video, please hit that like button. For more videos, check out the channel and maybe even subscribe. If you want more updates, you can also follow Beyond the Game on Twitter. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.